Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Christine Romans in for Joe Fryer this morning. Really nice to see you today.
We're so happy. I'm so excited to get to anchor with you. It's great to have you here. There sure is. We're going to get started this morning in Gaza, where there are growing fears for the safety of Palestinians sheltering in Rafah after Israel pushed ahead with its military operation there. And this comes one day after Hamas accepted a proposed ceasefire hostage deal brokered by Egypt and Qatar, which Israel later said did not meet its requirements.
The Israeli military says their troops have seized control of the Gaza side of the Rafah crossing, which is one of the main entry points of aid into the besieged Palestinian enclave. This video, verified by NBC News, shows Israeli tanks flattening Gaza signs at the crossing. The Palestinian Crossings Authority says the movement of aid into the strip has now stopped. An Israeli official told NBC News that the ground incursion into Rafah would be, quote, limited. Earlier, people in Gaza were seen celebrating after Hamas said it accepted a three-stage truce deal that would also see the release of Israeli hostages. But that joy soon turned to anguish after Israel rejected the deal, saying it fell short of its demands. Israel carried out more airstrikes on Rafah overnight, killing and wounding dozens of Palestinians. Despite that, Israel said it is sending a delegation to Cairo to continue negotiations. We have a team standing by to discuss all of this and more, but we start things off with NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel in Jerusalem.
So Israeli troops overnight took over the Palestinian side of the Rafah border crossing. So that gives Israel effective control of this key entry point into Gaza. It also gives them a foothold into the city. Israeli officials say that this is not the start of the widely anticipated big Rafah offensive, something that President Biden has opposed. They say that this is a tactical move, but it is also something that strengthens their hand as they go back into negotiations. So they are holding part of Rafah. They did leaflet the area. But our crew in Rafah started documenting the Israeli bombing campaign really just hours after the leaflets were dropped. So they didn't give very much time for people to evacuate the area. We talked yesterday how they were using text messages and leaflets to tell people to get out of this part of Rafah. But within hours, they were bombing, and according to medical officials, in overnight attacks, including that incursion into the Palestinian side of the Rafah border crossing, at least 20 people were killed, including children.
All right, Richard Engel, thank you so much for that. Let's now bring in NBC News White House correspondent Aaron Gilchrist for more on this. Aaron, good morning. Always good to see you. So we know the Biden administration has been working to try to prevent this ground offensive in Rafah from even happening for weeks now. Now, they're saying that this is this targeted incursion, but what are you hearing from the White House about this attack? Does the Biden administration intend to respond in any way?
So you're right, Savannah. The Biden administration has been saying for months now, really, that it didn't want to see Israel execute a large-scale, massive military movement into Rafah because of the more than 1 million Palestinians who are sort of gathered and who have been pushed into that area. And so a U.S. official has told NBC News that it doesn't believe this movement by Israel was that major military operation. As Richard indicated, it seemed as though this was and as the IDF has said this morning, this was a targeted operation that went in with a specific set of outcomes that they were trying to accomplish without being a massive military operation that would see air and ground forces and that sort of go in and do some extensive action there. The White House, we know, had been watching the situation and monitoring what was going on last night. And at this point, as I say, it doesn't seem as though there's an understanding that this was the major military operation that the U.S. has been encouraging Israel not to take. And, of course, the primary concern there, Savannah and Christine, was that there are so many people, so many civilians in that area, and the U.S. has been saying to Israel that it should not go through with that operation until it can present a clear, executable plan to care for the evacuation of those people, to make sure that they could be that their needs could be met in terms of food and water and medicine before they would do any operation that would go to root out Hamas from that area. And of course, the administration does still support Israel's efforts to decapitate Hamas.
You know, Aaron, the Biden administration also delaying the sale of precision military weapons to Israel. What more do we know about that?
Yeah, our team at the Pentagon has been able to learn from two senior administration officials that the administration did stop or halt the shipment of a large shipment of offensive weapons into Israel last week. We know that this talk about ramping up to go in with this ground invasion of Rafah is something that the Israelis had been working on, and this shipment of 2,000-pound bombs and other ammunition would likely have been used in Rafah, according to this official that spoke to our team. And Israel has said that it would still plan to go in with some sort of a plan, a military action in Rafah, even though this sort of a shipment was delayed. Israel does have the ability, the weaponry to be able to execute something like that without the use of weapons provided by the U.S. But certainly anything that the U.S. would be providing would be helpful to Israel in its operations against Hamas. And of course, this raises the question of whether the Biden administration is trying to use some leverage here to slow down what Israel is doing until it can get a better idea of what Israel's plans are.
Aaron, you gave us a preview of this yesterday, but we know today the president is set to deliver a keynote address on anti-Semitism at a Holocaust remembrance ceremony today. What is his message going to be, and do we expect he will address this invasion of Rafah at all when we see him today?
Well, the White House has shared a few points that they expect the president to touch on in his comments this morning at the U.S. Capitol for the Days of Remembrance ceremony that's going to be happening there. And what we've learned at this point is that the president will talk about the Holocaust, and he will talk about the events that led to it and the need for Americans and people really around the world to not forget the murdering of 6 million Jews during the Holocaust and all that led up to that. He, of course, we know, will also speak about what happened on October 7th in Israel, the attack by Hamas then, and really talk about the connection between those two incidents in terms of how they've impacted the Jewish people and the need for people around the world to not forget those two occurrences in particular. And then, of course, he'll address things here domestically, Savannah and Christine. He'll talk about what we've been seeing on college campuses, the protests that we've been seeing, and he will denounce again anti-Semitism in those spaces and in any spaces around the country. He'll talk about how Americans should stand together to fight any sort of hate and hate speech in any form.
All right, Aaron Gilchrist, thank you very much for your reporting. All right, former NBC News correspondent and bureau chief in Tel Aviv, Martin Fletcher, joins us now for more on what happens next in Gaza. Martin, good morning. So nice to see you. Walk us through this here today. You know, Israeli tanks taking control of the border crossing. There are more than 1 million people in Rafah who are seeking shelter there, really with nowhere else to go in Gaza. An Israeli official telling NBC News this operation is quote, very limited. As all this begins, Martin, what's at stake for both Israel and Gaza here?
This is a huge moment, Christine and Savannah, in this ongoing drama and tragedy. It's a confusing, dangerous moment in which we're going to see soon, it appears, a large Israeli attack on Gaza, unless it can be prevented. The thing is that Israel found itself suddenly on its back foot with Hamas openly accepting and getting a lot of praise for accepting the ceasefire deal. Israel now finds itself on the back foot, needing somehow to create a situation in which its troops, on the one hand, can go in with the acceptance of the United States of America in particular, but on the other hand, try to reach a ceasefire deal with Hamas. The problem for Israel is that when Hamas came out now and accepted the deal and got a lot of encouragement and support for accepting the deal, Israel says it wasn't the deal that Israel proposed. So the key stumbling block at the moment seems to be that of the 33 hostages that Hamas says it will release, it now appears that some of those hostages, at least many maybe, but certainly some, will in fact not be alive. They will be corpses. They will be dead Israelis. Israel's hoping for 33 living hostages to be released. If that is not the case, then Israel says it cannot agree to this deal. They have sent negotiators to Cairo to continue negotiating with Hamas, but we're told it's a mid-level team, which means that they have not yet got complete agreement from the Prime Minister Netanyahu to reach a final deal. So this is still very much in the air whether there is going to be a ceasefire. Israel now, by sending its tanks to the crossing point at Rafah is making a very clear indication that this is the next step towards a major attack on Rafah, which, of course, the United States doesn't want, Europe doesn't want, the United Nations doesn't want, many of the Israeli people don't want, and certainly the Palestinian peoples in Gaza, especially the civilians under threat now, also don't want. So this is a confusing, dangerous moment in this ongoing tragedy, and a lot is playing out very quickly today. Today seems to be a critical day.
And Martin, as you just explained, obviously these ceasefire negotiations so tenuous, walking this fine line. Do you think that the fact that Israeli troops have now entered Rafah puts those talks in jeopardy at all? Do you see that changing the conversation in Cairo?
Well, as Aaron mentioned earlier, it's about leverage, I think. I think it's about leverage. Israel saying, if there is no agreement very quickly, we're set to attack in a major way Rafah, which is their final target. They want to destroy, they say, the 4 Hamas brigades, army brigades, still in Rafah. That's where Israel believes the Hamas leader Anwar Sinwar is. They believe many hostages are there. So Israel says, from its part, it needs to attack Rafah, but it's being held back by the United States in particular. So the issue is whether or not Israel will attack. And I think that, and of course, whether Palestinian civilians will be killed in large numbers in that attack. And so that's what we have to wait and see what will be decided probably today. But certainly the presence of the Israeli tanks at that key junction between Egypt and Rafah, which also between Egypt and Gaza, which we also believe will mean that no more humanitarian aid, for instance, will be able to get through today. So the pressure points are increasing today, and we're just going to have to see whether or not Israel and Hamas will come to some kind of agreement. Otherwise, it appears Israel is poised for its major attack.
Certainly a critical day here. We know you'll be watching it unfold. Martin Fletcher, thank you so much.
Thank you, Martin. Well, back here in the U.S., protests and clashes with police continue on college campuses just as commencement season gets underway. Now, several schools are canceling their graduations or making alternative arrangements. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa explains.
The tidal wave of protests on America's college campuses now colliding with commencement season. Columbia University canceling its main graduation, opting instead for individual school ceremonies.
It's been a tough time, honestly. It's been really, I think it's been demoralizing.
Free Palestine! Emory University announcing it will move its main commencement off campus, citing safety concerns.
Why are you doing that?
Last month, police clashed with demonstrators there. Meanwhile, commencement season marked by disruptions. A pro-Palestinian protester covered in fake blood stormed Northeastern University's stage this weekend.
Davis, we will
while demonstrators marched through the University of Michigan's ceremony. At UCLA, dozens of arrests. Demonstrators calling on the school to divest from Israel, marching and holding sit-ins. The administration saying classes would move fully remote the same day campus was supposed to be back to business as usual after police cleared an encampment there last week. Officers called in to clear tents at UC San Diego. Police arresting 64 protesters. NBC News now tracking protests at more than 75 campuses nationwide, arrests close to 2,500. Protesters at the University of Chicago erecting a fence around their camp after negotiations with the administration collapsed. Faculty calling on the school to avoid bringing in police.
Our most immediate concern is for the well-being of our students. We don't want them getting beat up just because they're camping on the lawn.
The school saying students' demands were inconsistent with the university's principles.
We're not going away. We're not giving up the fight.
Our thanks to Maggie Vespa for that report. Well, the deadline for the encampment at the University of Chicago to be broken down has passed. Students there say they are bracing for police intervention. The school's administration has not commented on what next steps they may take. Well, former President Donald Trump will be back in court later this morning in his ongoing hush money criminal trial here in New York City.
Yesterday, the jury heard from a former Trump Organization executive who discussed his role in the alleged hush money payments Mr. Trump made to Stormy Daniels. Earlier in the day, the presiding judge threatened the former president with jail time after ruling he again violated the gag order, which bars him from negatively discussing jurors and potential witnesses. After court adjourned for the day, Trump addressed that confrontation with the judge and the gag order.
the other thing that maybe is even more disgraceful is the gag order, where I can't basically, I have to watch every word I tell you people. I can't talk about it because this judge has given me a gag order and said you'll go to jail if you violate it. And frankly, you know what? Our Constitution is much more important than jail. It's not even close. I'll do that sacrifice any day.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos is, of course, here with the latest. Danny, good morning. Always good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you, too. I'm watching that video, and I'm thinking only of Todd Blanche. He's just thinking billable hour. He's just trying to get through this at this point.
Well, tell us, that's exactly where I want to start, of course, is on this gag order. And tell us really kind of the options that the judge has, what this does look like if he were to impose jail time.
So administratively, it would be a nightmare. I'm sure the judge himself, no judge with any Trump trial has any idea how they would administratively jail a former president. And Trump, on some level, is aware of that, or else he wouldn't be so brave when he's out there speaking. So, yes, he would have to figure out a way to hold him. I picture it being just for a few hours. Now, a lot of people have said, hey, what if they just hold him till like 11 o'clock at night? Yeah, that might work in private industry. This is a courthouse. Everybody's out of there by 5 p.m. So just like holding a detainee for several hours, those buses leave to go back to the actual jails at night. So I don't know how they would do that, but logistically it would be a nightmare. The judge himself said that. I really admired how he admitted, I don't want to do this. It's going to be a huge pain. But he will if he has to. I suspect Trump will hew closer to the line going forward so that the next hearing, and there probably will be one, will at least be a close call.
And he wouldn't spend jail time like a regular person would spend jail time because he's got Secret Service protection. So it would be some kind of detention or jail time, timeout, I guess, but with full Secret Service protection. Let's talk about what we heard in that courtroom yesterday from the former controller of the company talking about this payment, this $130,000 payment to Michael Cohen. What did we learn? It was unclear, really, I think, what that payment was for. What did we learn about that money?
Well, the fact that it was unclear is a major part of the government's case here, is the idea that this doesn't exactly make sense. To look at it in its simplest terms, as an attorney, if I invoice someone, I don't like paying taxes, but I never say to my clients, hey, take my bill and double it because I don't want to pay taxes on it. I mean, when you step back, the oddness of this payment arrangement emerges very quickly. And there's so many other issues with this. The idea of, is it a reimbursement or is it payment for legal services? The other thing they developed yesterday is the idea, and they really need to do this, the government does, that Donald Trump was a micromanager. They need to establish that because otherwise one of his main defenses is going to be, I'm the big boss man. I don't oversee everything, like who picks up the garbage or who gives us paper clips. That's not my job. Yes, I sign checks. And, they went a long way showing signed checks by Donald Trump. But anyone remotely involved with business knows that the boss man sometimes signs checks. He may not know exactly what they're for. So they're inching along. They made a lot of progress yesterday.
So, Danny, it looks like they could still need 2 more weeks, a little bit more than that, before handing it over to the defense. We haven't heard from some big names here still. Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels herself. What do you think these next 2 weeks look like?
So I like to take the outlier bets here. And I don't even know that you need a Stormy Daniels at this point. I still think they'll call her. But Stormy Daniels represents risk for the prosecution. And if they can get all that evidence in through, for example, Keith Davidson, her former attorney, then the prosecution would just as rather not have to call her at all. Michael Cohen's another example. If they didn't have to call Michael Cohen, they wouldn't. But they almost certainly will, because I think that's going to be the ultimate direct evidence. Donald Trump told me to do A, B, C, or D. You may not hear him give the direct order to do what is alleged here, but Michael Cohen will probably testify as to something pretty close to that.
Fascinating to watch. It really is. Every day has been fascinating. Danny, thank you.
Love having you here to break it down. Thank you.
All right, at least one person is dead after extreme weather tore through the central part of the country overnight. The line of storms marks 6 straight weeks of severe weather across the country. The storms creating wind damage, heavy downpours, destructive tornadoes. The worst of this system hitting Oklahoma overnight, with damage reported across multiple counties. The small town of Barnstable, Oklahoma, was hit by a tornado for the 2nd time in a month. That's where NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is this morning.
Christine, good morning. We arrived on the ground here in Barndall overnight, and it's absolutely brutal here. This bedroom community of Tulsa has been decimated by a violent, incredibly dangerous tornado. That's how it was described on air in real time as we were watching the reports. Now on the ground, as you look over my shoulder, homes like this are completely destroyed. I mean, cinder blocks that are piled up, doors that have been snarled, and it's not like this is just one little snapshot. According to the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, there's 30 to 40 damaged homes that look something like this all throughout this community, and we're not talking about a large community either. This is one of these places where it's only 1,000 people. It's called the Little Town with a Big Heart that has been turned completely upside down right now, and you can't see it from where I'm standing, but just down the street, there's all of these police cars and vehicles and debris that's being moved around already in this early morning hour. Equipment, as whether that's cleanup or whether it's still a search just to make sure that everyone is okay, not entirely clear. But again, we did watch folks going through all of these piles and calling out, is there anyone there? As far as what we know this morning, one confirmed fatality so far. There are multiple injuries, according to the sheriff of Barndall. He did not expound as to the severity of them or how many people are injured, but it's incredible to think only one confirmed fatality so far, because this was a direct hit of this tornado, or reported tornado, right through this area. And we knew coming in, Christine, that it was a high-risk situation, which is extremely rare. It happens maybe once a year in the state of Oklahoma. The last 6 times that's happened, there have been on average 19 tornadoes. So far, 7 overnight. But this is, again, just one situation that folks are dealing with. And there's also a nursing home I'd like to point out that was basically split down the middle. That's in a part of town we can't access right now. Concerns initially that there might have been folks there that were trapped, that could have been injured, perhaps even killed. Good news on that front. The nursing home posting overnight that everyone is safe and accounted for. There was a gas leak they couldn't turn off, so all the residents there had to be moved to other facilities. They're telling their loved ones we're going to reunite them and make sure they're in facilities where they're getting safe care at some point. But all this sort of in the air right now as communities all throughout Oklahoma are dealing with some level of damage, but this is the worst one right now. Of 15 or so reported tornadoes on the ground this morning in Barndall, we are seeing up close and personal folks' lives who have been changed forever. That's the latest here, Christine. I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, Sam Brock, thank you very much. So let's now bring in NBC News meteorologist Michelle Grossman for the latest on the continuing threat posed by these storms. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, Savannah. Great to see you. And yeah, it's been a tough go with this severe storm season. And we're going to see severe storms continuing today, also Wednesday into Thursday. And this is why we have that cold front. Clear to see where that front is moving to the east. We have storms along this front. We watched them all night long, starting to dissipate somewhat, but they're going to flare up once again, but still really active as we start out our Tuesday. You can see lots of lightning here, even seeing a little purple that could indicate some hail in some spots. So we have severe storms all along this front and really heavy rain as well. Now, as we go throughout the rest of today, 29 million people at risk as this moves off to the east. So now we're talking parts of the Midwest continuing into the Ohio Valley. We have an enhanced risk. That's 3 out of 5 on the scale here. That includes Cincinnati, Lexington, yellow too, where you see that shading. Could see some strong storms. So we are looking at damaging hail once again, large hail. The risk for tornadoes, some will be on the strong side, and winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. So really gusty, not the 80-mile-per-hour winds we saw yesterday, but still damaging and still could cause some more power outages because we have power outages right now. Then as we go throughout tomorrow, 44 million people at risk, sort of the same scenario. Large hail, some strong tornadoes are possible, winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour, but this number grows and the real estate grows. So now we're talking anywhere from portions of Texas all the way into the Ohio Valley, Paducah, Memphis, Little Rock, Fort Smith could see some strong storms on your Wednesday. In addition to that, we're worried about flash flooding because we're going to see training storms, and we could see 1 to 2 inches per hour, numerous rounds of heavy rain, especially where you see this darker blue, Lexington, Knoxville, Paducah, Memphis, Little Rock. You could see some flash flooding on your Wednesday as well. Then there is Thursday, still talking about the threat for severe storms. 49 million people impacted. Again, winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. We're looking at Texas all the way to the mid-Atlantic. Raleigh, Charleston, Alexandria, and Austin could see some strong storms. And then Savannah, we're looking at some heavy rain as well. A rainfall up to 1.5 to 2 inches in some spots. Where you see this darker color here, that's where we're looking at the highest amounts of rain. So that will be the story as we go throughout our Wednesday, Thursday, and then the rest of today as well. Back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. So much to watch for to keep people safe. We appreciate it. There's much more to come here on Morning News Now. After the break, Russian President Vladimir Putin sworn in for his 5th term in office. More from this morning's inauguration ceremony. And later this hour, rap rivalry will break down the beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the battle for global dominance in the electric vehicle market, a Chinese company is making waves with cheaper models for consumers, which could hurt sales here in the U.S. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer takes a look at what this all means for the future of EVs.
In the competitive world of Chinese electric vehicles,
it's looking for a spot
that are going further and costing less than ever before, no company makes or sells more than BYD, the Chinese giant taking on Tesla, offering cars for as little as $10,000.
Let's drive.
Along with higher-priced luxury models.
0 to 60 miles per hour in about 3 seconds. Anything like this in the U.S.?
Nothing that I've drove.
But don't look for electric cars from BYD on American roads anytime soon.
U.S. government need to be more friendly.
Stella Lee is the CEO steering BYD's expansion in the Americas. In an exclusive interview, she said the U.S. is not part of the plan yet.
They're not ready. But then for BYD, we are ready.
What conditions would need to exist in order to consider an entry into the U.S. market?
That's a good question. You should go back to ask the DC.
BYD faces stiff hurdles in the U.S., including a 25% tariff on imports and pushback from U.S. automakers who see Chinese competition as a major threat.
I think it's going to require trade restrictions for a limited period of time, which will allow the Western automakers and the U.S. automakers to catch up.
Even Tesla CEO Elon Musk, who just made a surprise visit to Beijing to meet officials.
It's good to see electric vehicles making progress in China.
Said that without trade barriers, Chinese EVs will, quote, demolish other car companies. BYD began as a battery manufacturer and with the help of government subsidies, now controls every mile of its low-cost supply chain from parts to shipping. Among the concerns of U.S. automakers and lawmakers, that BYD's plan to build a factory in Mexico could allow the company to skirt tariffs under free trade rules. BYD denies that's the goal. And U.S. officials say there are growing fears China could use smart car technology to spy on American drivers.
What did you make of the Biden administration opening an investigation into smart car technology because of national security concerns that this technology was coming from China?
I don't understand. There's no data approve that.
National security concerns are overblown?
Overblown, oversensitive, and misleading.
BYD alone is producing more than 3 million cars a year, with capacity for more, and few signs of slowing down. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Shenzhen.
Let's stay on some international news now. Russian President Vladimir Putin has been sworn into office for the 5th time. NBC's Matt Bodner joins us with more. Matt, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Let's kick things off today in Moscow Center, the Kremlin, where Russian President Vladimir Putin was sworn in for his 5th term in office. That is, as president. He, of course, spent an additional term once as prime minister. Putin's signature self-confidence was on proud display today. He used his massive reported electoral victory, that was 86% of votes reported in that March election, to claim that the nation was united behind him on its current course. I think we can fill in the blanks there. He's talking about the war in Ukraine. Russia, by the way, will celebrate Victory Day in 2 days, so I think we can expect more nuclear saber rattling before the weekend. Moving along now to Brazil, where sudden and historic flooding has killed at least 83 and also paralyzed day-to-day life across swaths of the nation's most populated state. More than 20,000 people have been displaced. Flooding has shut down the airport in the state capital, and half of the state's population centers are being described as crippled, with the local governor calling it the largest natural disaster the state has ever faced. Arguably, he added, it is one of the worst the entire nation has ever seen. And we'll wrap things up today in France for a very French world record. Measuring in at 461 feet long, a team of 18 French bakers have claimed the honor of baking the world's longest baguette. The French have reclaimed the crown from the Italians, it seems, who until Sunday held the world record with 431 feet long on the baguette. The record held for 5 years, and time can only tell at this point, Savannah, when the baguette race will end and at what length. For the record, after they won this giant award on Sunday, the baguette was cut into pieces and served to the crowd with a spread of Nutella. Back to you.
That is very impressive. How did they have an oven or anything that they needed that was that large? Matt, thank you very much. Love it. Coming up, eye-opening findings that could help identify your risk for Alzheimer's disease. We'll break down the results from a new and important study. And stop scrolling. The new research that shows a social media break could be the key to improving your mental health. Your weekly check-in is next on Morning News Now. We are back now with results of new research that's taking a closer look at Alzheimer's disease. For the first time, researchers say they believe they have identified a gene which once thought to have just increased the risk for Alzheimer's is now believed to actually cause some cases. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar is going to help us understand exactly what that means. So let's start on this gene. Okay, is this right? Do I say each letter? APOE4?
APOE4. Yeah. APOE4.
Okay, wow. APOE4, not what I would have guessed. Tell us about the significance of this gene.
Right. So as you said in the intro, APOE4 has always been known to be a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. And if you had one copy, it increased your risk. But if you had two copies, it increased your risk even more.
Okay.
We used to think that inherited cases of Alzheimer's disease numbered at around the 1% mark. Given that about 2% of the population, Savannah, has this, what we call homozygous, i.e. two copies of APOE4, that brings the number of inherited cases of Alzheimer's disease up to 15 to 20% of all cases of Alzheimer's disease, making it actually one of the most common then heritable diseases. And the thing that's important about this, that I want people to understand, is that having two copies of this gene confers a really, really high risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. People who had two copies, 95% of them showed the biological changes of Alzheimer's disease by the age of 82. But with an exclamation point. Having those changes doesn't necessarily mean you're going to develop dementia. So I don't want people to hear this and say, oh my goodness, I need to get tested, and if I have two copies of this gene, I will get Alzheimer's. That is not the message, but it is really, really important just in terms of understanding the disease, treating the disease, diagnosing the disease. It's a kind of a really, really huge, profound moment for this disease.
Hear this information, and Alzheimer's is in my family.
Yes.
But I hear that information even if it's not, and I'm like, hey, what is that? A blood test? How do I figure that out? Can I get that information? Should I get that information? Excuse me.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask. Before yesterday's paper, the answer was a very clear no. If you have a copy of the APOE4 gene, we know that increases your risk, but we can't intervene. We're not going to do anything differently.
Okay.
So do you really want to know? Some people might say yes. Now that we know that there is this really, really high risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, a lot of people will say, maybe I should know, because what if I could be treated earlier or I need to be monitored differently? We'll see what the Alzheimer's Association says about this in terms of their recommendations. But for right now, the answer is still probably not recommended to get tested, because what are you going to do with that information? You know, in medicine, that's always the question that we ask. What are you going to do with that information? As you mentioned, obviously family history, age is a risk, but there are other things that, remember, this still makes up a very small percentage of the Alzheimer's cases. The vast majority are really based on lifestyle, environment, head trauma. Things that are bad for your heart are bad for your brain. So again, this is super, super important, but it's still making up the minority of Alzheimer's cases. I want people to really understand that.
I feel like even if it's like, what are you going to do with the information? Is there something to do? There's just so many developments lately, like those like full body MRIs that you can get and everything, where people, I do think, are like, well, I don't know if it's accessible information. Is it something that I want? And I guess in the case of this one, the question is, there's not really this cure. There's not anything to do about this. Where are we on that front when it comes to this disease?
And so now on the flip side, many would argue, well, if you know that you have this, would you be a candidate in a number of years for what we call gene editing? We talked about APOE4 being the risk factor. There are two other APOs. APOE3, which is like a neutral risk for Alzheimer's, and APOE2, which decreases your risk for Alzheimer's. What if they could do some fancy splicing, and instead of E4, you get E2? Another important point is lecanemide is that treatment for Alzheimer's that was approved about a year or two ago that removes the plaques. One of the biggest side effects of Leqembi happens to be brain swelling and brain bleeding. People with two copies have a higher risk of that. So you may not want to treat someone with more advanced disease who has two copies, but maybe you want to treat them
earlier. This is all like researchers having conversations about what to do with this information. At this point right now, today, Savannah, it's not to rush out and get tested, but certainly something interesting to talk to your doctor about, especially if you have a family history of Alzheimer's disease.
Absolutely. And just always interesting when we get some of these medical breakthroughs on diseases that impact so many Americans and their families. Dr. Azar, always great to see you. Thank you so much. Well, let's stay on your health. It's time for our weekly mental health check-in. We're going to kick things off with an alarming new look at the Black maternal health crisis. Plus, we've talked so much on this show about the benefits of social media breaks, and now some research is showing the impact of closing apps for just 1 week could have on body image and self-esteem. It's a big one. Psychotherapist Dr. Robbie Ludwig joins us now to help us break these down. Dr. Robbie, always great to see you. Let's jump right in. So a study, this is out of England, it found that Black women are more than twice as likely to be admitted to the hospital for severe cases of prenatal mental illness than their white counterparts. That word, perinatal, that word refers to the period during pregnancy, and then I think I understand it as long as a year after pregnancy. What factors are causing that disparity, and what needs to change here?
So it was a really horrifying discovery. And, you know, they think part of the reason is that it may be cultural, where there's some resistance or shame surrounded around mental illness and addressing it, and also sociocultural and structural issues. So Black women may not have the finances to go to doctors in a way that is healthy for them, and there may not be access to the doctors that they need. So what is now being considered to heal this disparity is to really look at education, educating women in terms of their mental health and well-being, and also educating professionals to ask the right questions so that we can discover if someone is vulnerable to being hospitalized, if they have a family history, or even if it's not identified, to ask questions that could reveal a mental health history that should be addressed during pregnancy and after.
Really interesting stuff. Okay, this is also an interesting one. Researchers in Berlin talked to more than 100 politicians around the world. 41% of the current politicians surveyed, they reported low or very low mental well-being. Recently, a series of high-profile leaders even have quit. We've heard about this, signaled that mental health was one reason why. Maybe it's not a surprise. Politics are sort of a toxic environment, but what should the takeaway be here?
I think it was a surprise, because we tend to think of politicians as wanting the job and that they're strong and have a vision. But what the study found was even politicians had a reaction to the toxicity of the job, and that their mental well-being may not be as strong. So it's a very interesting study in that regard, where, you know, maybe our bias towards politicians being strong mentally, that we still need to consider it is a very challenging job, and there's the silencing factor where politicians don't talk about it. So the study was suggesting, let's be aware of the impact that, you know, the job has on mental well-being, and we really want to get a hold of this and a handle on this so that really good people who can be leaders will want the job. They won't be dissuaded from applying to being a world leader because of, you know, the death threats and the social media and all of those factors that contribute to the job being so challenging.
Yeah. Real quick, we do want to ask you this last one. So important. Another new study found that young women, specifically, who took a social media break for as little as just 1 week, they had this significant boost in self-esteem, body image. How is it that the change is that quick, and does this mean that this is something that we should try?
We know that social media can have a detrimental effect, and this study showed that they looked at women, undergraduate women, and when they took a week off from social media, they had a better feeling both about their self-esteem and also their body image. And what this shows is the 24/7 viewing of these images that kind of feed into this thin ideal was having a negative impact on women. And, you know, in the past when we had magazines that would come out once a month, we weren't bombarded with this kind of idea of what it means to be beautiful. So, you know, 1 week break can have a huge impact. It's worth considering as far as contributing to our mental well-being and our ideas about ourselves.
Dr. Robbie Ludwig, really important topics today. Thanks for joining. Always good to see you. Coming up, Drake and Kendrick Lamar trading beats, blows, and serious allegations in a diss track duel that's got the internet buzzing. When we come back, we'll break down what's behind the beef between two of hip-hop's hottest artists. This is Morning News Now. We are back with some financial headlines and a big update from Apple on its latest moves to dive further into AI. CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and more. Hey, Silvana.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. So Apple is reportedly working on its own chips to run AI software in data centers. The company has already become a leading player in designing its own chips for the iPhone, the iPad, Apple Watch, and Mac computers. The Wall Street Journal says it's unclear when Apple may unveil the new chip, but it has promised AI products and announcements at its Worldwide Developers Conference in June. Spring is in the air, and so are iPads. Apple is holding an event today to unveil new tablets with a keynote dubbed Let Loose. Now, it's expected the company will show off an updated iPad Air and a new iPad Pro with an OLED screen that should offer richer colors. OLED displays are also thinner than LCD screens, so this could be a more compact device. There have also been rumors the iPad Pro will feature a glass back to allow for MagSafe charging. And Equinox wants to help you live longer at a price, of course. The high-end fitness chain is launching a $40,000 a year membership program aimed at improving overall health and longevity. It offers everything from personal training and nutrition plans to sleep coaching and massage therapy. The new program is part of efforts by Equinox to expand beyond fitness into the broader wellness business, Savannah.
$42,000. I'd hope someone's cooking the food, too. All right, Silvana.
Yes, and cleaning for me, too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, turning now to a rap rivalry that's taken over the internet. If you're not caught up, don't worry. We're going to do a little Morning News Now diss track breakdown for you. Listen close. The beef is between award-winning artist Drake and Kendrick Lamar. But the initial battle actually started between Kendrick Lamar and Drake's friend, rapper J. Cole, who had a few choice words for Lamar in his song called 7 Minute Drill. But just days after dropping his diss track, Cole actually apologized publicly, officially stepping out of the ring, so to speak. That is when Drake jumped in with his own reply, reigniting this feud that has reportedly been going on between him and Kendrick for years. Here to help us break down the beef is Howard University communications professor Dr. Taya Tyree. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor. Good morning. So let's jump right in. I mean, you heard my explanation. How did I do? Did I kind of get us up to speed? And tell us why this rivalry is so significant, causing such a stir.
Absolutely. I mean, this has been going on for years, and rap battling is a big part of hip hop culture. So this very moment, yes, you did a wonderful job at explaining kind of where we are and what led up to the moment where there is literally lyrical sparring almost daily between the two rap artists.
So one of the things that I've been reading a lot about, hearing about, seeing on social media is kind of just like how serious some of this is getting, how serious some of these unconfirmed accusations against one another are, including some pretty heavy allegations of abuse. Also, what Drake is calling misinformation that he planted himself that's now making its way in here. Talk us through that and like if there's a line at all when it comes to these rap battles.
So the idea in hip hop of always what's your top five, who's your top three, the idea of lyrical superiority, being the best of the best, holding the crown, as you can see, that's something that Kendrick Lamar often does in his imagery. That's a big part of it. A big part of it, too, is authenticity. What's real? What's your real, life story? And how am I using that in my rap? We see this happening kind of the opposite way, where we have the rappers actually looking at the more negative aspects of their life and highlighting that in their songs. And the truth is, when you're in a rap battle, there is no line. The line gets thrown away, and it's really about which lines can sting, which lines can be so hurtful that you might decide, okay, this is it for me. I'm done. This is over. And I believe on 2 different occasions, Drake, including his last song, has kind of said, okay, this is fun. I'm done with this now, but we'll see if Kendrick decides he's done.
This is obviously not the first time that we've seen 2 major rap artists be trading blows in their music. How instrumental are diss tracks and then the discourse sort of around them to hip-hop culture generally?
So we can think back to initially Roxanne Shante in 1984, where Roxanne Shante and UTFO started really quickly a rap beef, but everybody jumped in. If you think about the one I think we most often remember, Tupac and Biggie in the 90s, it's something that often, bubbles up in hip hop. It's a big part of it. There's battle rappers that actually rap in front of live audiences. So we are used to this. I think the difference here is social media. We have the ability for Drake to drop a track and literally within seconds, the world knows. And there were 14 million views on the one in less than a day. So we have the ability to participate not only in social media, but listening and talking in the barbershop and the beauty salon. And it's just something that we can participate in instantaneously, unlike when it happened in the past.
Dr. Tia Tyree, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate your time this morning. Everybody's seeing this on the internet, so it's helpful that we kind of clue our viewers in. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Coming up, fashion's biggest night, and the stars certainly delivered. When we come back, we'll head to the red carpet for a look at some of the hottest looks from last night's Met Gala. You're watching Morning News Now. All right, welcome back. Celebrities stepped out in all of their fiercest fashion last night for the 2024 Met Gala here in New York. Yeah, it is considered fashion's biggest night, with celebrities teaming up with designers to create these elaborate, stunning looks to show off on the red carpet and go with the theme. This year it was called the Garden of Time, and we've got a red carpet recap taking a look at who hit the mark. Entertainment journalist, pop culture expert, and friend of the show, Brian Balthazar, has all the highlights. Good morning, Brian. So nice to see you.
Look, he's in his garden. Well, he has in front of his wallpaper that looks like it's a garden in time.
I love it. Beautiful. A garden in time. That was the theme. Let's start with the looks that stood out to you the most.
All right, well, I thought it was actually a really impressive night, and Zendaya, of course, always a fashion trendsetter, setting a trend of wearing 2 looks in the same night. Of course, this is Maison Margiela by John Galliano, and then she came back and wore a black Givenchy gown and a vibrant floral headpiece by Alexander McQueen. Let's hope that's not a trend that everybody wears 2 looks, but I'm sure if anyone's going to do it, she pulls it off beautifully. She's one of the hosts in the evening. Of course, also Jennifer Lopez, another host of the evening, wearing a Sharpelli haute couture piece with rhinestones and pearls. She got there early. I mean, look at that, looking gorgeous. But of course, you can't have a Met Gala lately without Kim Kardashian making making an impression. Let's say that. She wore a silver Maison Margiela gown by John Galliano, and what really stole the headlines was 2 things. Actually, was a corset that was so, incredibly cinched. I have to imagine she did not eat dessert. And then, of course, a sweater that actually some people accused of being like a little ratty and worn looking, but she said that was intentional. So there's all sorts of speculation about why she was wearing that and guarding herself so closely with it. Nicki Minaj wore a floral sculpture taking that garden theme very literally by Marni's Francesco Risso. Janelle Monáe wore Vera Wang made out of, look at Nicki Minaj taking that. Oh, there's Janelle Monáe wearing holographic discs. That's gorgeous. She needed a little, almost fell up the stairs because of those platform shoes, but she didn't. Gigi Hadid wore Tom Brown in a skirt that appeared to be made of deconstructed white suit jackets. And I have to say, Demi Moore looking spectacular. She's 60 years old.
Yeah,
I don't even believe that. A sculptural Harris Reed gown with exaggerated hips. Those are just a few of the amazing looks that we saw last night. There are tons more.
It really always shocks me because they all look fantastic in these little snippets or in the pictures. When you see the videos, none of them can get up the stairs. It's like so funny that they don't mind in front of everybody. They need to be like carried and like shuffle.
There were a couple of people that had to be carried up the stairs last night or have an attendant of 8. It was incredible. One of them actually was Tyla. She needed help getting up the stairs because it was just impossible. She was actually wearing a gown that was sculpted and then covered in 3 different types of sand. Look at that. And then You just have to appreciate the moment. You have to imagine she did not wear that to the actual table, the dinner table. Many of the dresses are changed out of it because you saw Cardi B, actually, she wore an organza gown by Windowson, and she needed 8 people to get her in position for the photograph. Of course she's not wearing that to the table, which I think is one of the reasons why the inside is guarded so closely, because you want to have the fantasy and the mystery of what's happening.
Oh my God, I would be in sweatpants in there.
This is an art museum. Each of these dresses is a piece of art, a work of art, not meant to dance in, not meant to walk up the stairs in, just meant to be a piece of art in, I guess, right, Brian?
Exactly, and that's what this is all about, raising upwards of $15 or more million for the exhibit. So, I mean, it's a great thing. You just have to escape into the into the surreality of it all.
Every year tops the year before.
It's so true, and you're like, how do you put that on?
All right, Brian,
Kim
thank you so
Kardashian
much.
waist.
I know, very small waist. Thank you so much, Brian. Nice to see you. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Don't go anywhere. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for starting your Tuesday with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
Good morning. I'm Christine Romans, giving Joe some much-deserved time off. Right now on Morning News Now, boots on the ground. Israel's military taking control of a key border crossing as troops advance into the southern Gazan city of Rafah. It comes just hours after Hamas officials said they would accept a new ceasefire proposal brokered by Qatar and Egypt, but Israel says no deal. We've got team coverage this morning as global leaders sound the alarm over Israel's intensifying offensive. Devastation and destruction this morning across the plains. Severe weather that spawned several terrifying tornadoes tearing across multiple states overnight. Officials say it's all led to the death of at least one person in Oklahoma. And this morning, millions more in the Midwest are now at risk of dangerous storms. Our Michelle Grossman is tracking it all in just a moment. Also, this morning, we're learning of even more turbulence at Boeing, another one of its flagship jets, now under federal investigation. We'll tell you what the FAA is looking into. And it was the hottest ticket in town last night. Later in the hour, we've got your front row seats to the best and brightest looks from this year's Met Gala. We begin this hour with major developments in the war in Gaza. Israeli troops have seized control of the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing, one of the main entry points for aid going into the decimated Gaza Strip.
Yeah, many fear that the incursion could be the first steps of Israel's much-touted ground assault on the city that's sheltering 1.5 million Palestinians. The military operation comes one day after Hamas says they accepted a ceasefire proposal that was brokered by Egypt and Qatar. Israel, though, says it did not meet their demands. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the latest from Jerusalem.
Israeli officials this morning described the move into Rafah as a limited military incursion and not the start of a long-anticipated major ground offensive. It comes as ceasefire negotiations are back on, with Hamas saying it's willing to release all of the hostages it's holding in a deal. But Israel does not accept the terms. Israeli troops stormed into Rafah overnight. Video showing tanks crashing over a sign at the entrance of the city. Israel took over the Gazan side of the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, a key transit point for aid. It says Hamas used the area to launch a deadly attack on Israeli troops over the weekend. Israel had warned civilians to leave the area in Rafah yesterday, but gave them little time to do it. Our crew filmed how the bombing started just hours after Israel's evacuation notice. Palestinian medics say more than 20 people were killed in the overnight operation, including children. The bodies today handed over to their families. Hamas says it has agreed to a plan to end all of this and sent NBC News the full text of a 4-page document in which Hamas promises to release all the hostages it's holding. Israel believes there are 132 in all to achieve a, quote, sustainable calm with Israel. Hamas says the plan would be implemented in 3 phases, each 42 days long. In phase 1, Israel and Hamas would cease hostilities, and Hamas would free 33 hostages, including all women, hostages over 50, and sick and wounded civilians. In exchange, Israeli troops would withdraw from densely populated areas in Gaza, release Palestinian prisoners, allow more aid into Gaza, and give Palestinians freedom of movement within the Gaza Strip. During the next 2 phases, Hamas would release all remaining hostages. Israeli troops would leave Gaza completely, and a 3 to 5 year internationally supported program to rebuild Gaza would begin. The document lists Qatar, Egypt, the UN, and the United States as guarantors.
We're currently reviewing that response.
The Israeli government responded, saying Hamas's terms do not meet its necessary requirements, but Israel is nonetheless sending a team of negotiators to Cairo to discuss it. A major sticking point is the future of Hamas in Gaza. The terms Hamas presents strongly suggest the group will remain in power, which is something Israel has said it will never accept.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. All right, let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez. Nice to see you this morning, Gabe. The IDF says its forces have taken control of that Rafah border crossing now. What are you hearing from the White House this morning?
Hi there, Christine and Savannah. Good morning. Well, the White House had been watching the overnight developments with some concerns. But at this point, the White House says that it appears that this was a targeted tactical operation and not the large-scale invasion that the administration had been waiting for. So at this point, the focus now shifts to these hostage talks that are now will get underway once again in Cairo. Christine and Savannah.
And Gabe, let's talk about this proposed ceasefire, this negotiation going on. Hamas saying they have agreed to a deal. So far, Israel has not. They said it did not meet their demands. President Biden has been pushing hard, though, for an agreement. What is the White House saying about Israel's decision, and what do we know about this deal that Hamas said it had agreed to?
Well, look, the White House for days, for weeks, really, has been very frustrated with Hamas, saying that the ball has been in their court. And the president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday and tried to head off this military operation in Rafah, but trying to make the case that this hostage deal really needs to get done. As of yesterday, the White House had been publicly saying that the U.S. was reviewing this Hamas proposal. But at this point, we understand that the U.S. is still siding with Israel and does not think that this proposal is acceptable, but is encouraged that there does seem to be room for future negotiation. Christine and Savannah.
NBC News, we've confirmed that last week the U.S. halted a shipment of offensive weapons to Israel as they prepare for this ground operation in Rafah. What is the White House saying about that decision?
Well, Christine, publicly, the White House is not confirming that that shipment was halted, but according to two senior administration officials telling NBC News, yes, the administration did halt this shipment of 2,000-pound bombs as well as ammunition that was set to be sent to Israel, possibly for use in this Rafah operation. Now, the officials stressed that this was not any sort of larger policy shift here, but still, it is incredibly unusual for the U.S. to withhold a military aid like this. So the concern now moving forward is what form the Rafah operation takes and whether the negotiators can come to some sort of deal that is acceptable to all the parties here, Savannah and Christine.
All right. Gabe at the White House for us bright and early this morning. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks as always for reporting. Let's talk more about the situation in Gaza with Gershon Baskin. He's the Middle East Director of International Communities Organization. Always great to have you with us. Thanks for being here. So Hamas had been under pressure from the U.S. and others to accept a ceasefire hostage proposal. Now they have, but Israel is rejecting it, calling it a softened proposal, saying this one that they're saying they agreed to is not the one that they were on board with. What is going on?
Well, the catch-22 here is that there's no agreement that Hamas will agree to without a commitment to end the war. And Israel will not agree to any agreement that does not end, that keeps the war going. The Israelis don't want to end the war. They want to make sure that Hamas is not in control of Gaza. Hamas wants to make sure that they are in control of Gaza when this ends. The tragic reality here is that the government of Prime Minister Netanyahu refuses to put any kind of political endgame on the table that might replace Hamas for the fear that it would turn into the beginning of a Palestinian state that Prime Minister Netanyahu has worked against since 2009.
You argued on X that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is trying to sabotage this hostage deal by carrying out this military incursion into Rafah. Why would he go into Rafah right now when a deal on hostages seems so close?
Well, one thing is that it might just be a response to the Hamas shooting of rockets and mortars from Rafah crossing into Israel 2 days ago that killed 4 Israeli soldiers inside of Israel and wounded another 9, some of them critical. It's also because of the importance of the Rafah crossing and knowing that Rafah crossing and the 13-kilometer border between Gaza and Egypt has been the primary smuggling route for weapons and rockets and bombs that Hamas has used over the past years. That needs to be dealt with before there is an end to the war. My proposal has been that the United States work with the Egyptians to deal with that border crossing and the corridor on the Egyptian side of the border, with the U.S. Corps of Engineers working with them, American know-how, American finance, Egyptian labor. This is one of the requirements that's necessary to ensure that Hamas never becomes a launching ground for attacks against Israel.
Gershon, if Hamas is not agreeing to release all the hostages and Israel will not agree to end fighting without completely eradicating Hamas, without any other type of leadership plan in place for Gaza, for Palestinians, how does this end? How could this end?
First of all, I think it's important to note that that 4-page plan that Hamas has submitted does, in fact, talk about releasing all the hostages, those who are alive and those who are dead. There are 132 of them, but it also requires ending the war. There is no alternative strategy from Israel's point of view on the table right now. Netanyahu seems primarily concerned with prolonging his political lifeline, and he is being held hostage by his own government, who won't allow him to negotiate any kind of a longer-term vision toward a Palestinian state. This is also very critical because the United States has been negotiating with the Saudis to normalize relations with Israel, but that is conditional on meeting the requirements of launching a plan for a credible two-state solution, which Netanyahu is opposed to. I'm afraid that the only way we will see the end to this war is if it's imposed upon the parties, or if we have a change of leadership in Israel and in Palestine. And that's where we have to be heading, I think.
Gershon Baskin, we always appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us.
All right, the ongoing anti-war protests nationwide are now spreading beyond college campuses. Last night, hundreds marched near the famed Met Gala for a so-called Day of Rage. It comes as more top universities announce they are canceling or changing graduation plans. Maggie Vespa has more.
The fury unfolding on college campuses for weeks, trying to interrupt fashion's biggest night. The NYPD saying close to 1,000 pro-Palestinian protesters made their presence felt in Manhattan near last night's famed Met Gala. Officers making several arrests. The protests also impacting this year's graduation season. Following violent clashes between students and police, Atlanta's Emory University says it will move its main graduation ceremony off campus, while Columbia University in New York is canceling its big central celebration altogether.
It's deeply saddening, and honestly, I'm very angry.
Nathan and Heather Wilson's son Rory is graduating from Columbia.
It is very disappointing.
When protesters broke into Columbia's Hamilton Hall last week, Rory Wilson and a friend say they stepped in to try and stop them. Columbia then calling in the NYPD to clear the building. The Wilsons criticizing the university's handling of the protests.
They lost control of security, and they ceased to become a place where dialogue and discourse could even happen.
Meanwhile, consequences for demonstrators are escalating. At MIT, where Massachusetts State Police cleared camps yesterday, administrators are now threatening to suspend student protesters. Harvard's interim president writing any students remaining in that school's encampment will be referred for involuntary leave. Shame on you! With tensions high on all sides, a new push to combat anti-Semitism launched by Patriots owner Robert Kraft.
Bring your passion, your tenacity, bring your anger, but don't bring hate to the protest.
And back out here live on the University of Chicago's campus, you can see crews kind of driving by with parts of the encampment that's been here for more than a week now. And then behind me, you can see police and crews clearing that. They swooped in early this morning. Some students told us they were aggressive in doing so, but the camp has been cleared. And so far, Christine, there have been no reports of any injuries or arrests here on campus.
All right, Maggie Vespa there in Chicago. Thank you so much, Maggie. Now let's get to those severe storms tearing through several states overnight. The systems spawned tornadoes that hit several towns, destroying homes and businesses, even knocking out power lines. In Oklahoma, the small town of Barnesville took a direct hit from a tornado, leaving at least one person dead. That is where NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is this morning. Sam, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. The southern plains took a direct hit overnight, and that includes Barndall, where I'm standing, where the Oklahoma Highway Patrol estimates that somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 homes look like this. Damaged right now. We were actually here in the early morning hours as we watched members of law enforcement with headlamps and flashlights walking all up and down these piles of debris and calling out, "Is anyone there? Are you okay?" We know at this point there's been one confirmed fatality as this place that is called the Little Town with a Big Heart has been turned upside down. This morning, fears of a violent tornado outbreak across the plains turned into a devastating reality. With the 1,000-person town of Barnsdall, Oklahoma, still reeling from a tornado just 1 month ago, overrun by an incredibly dangerous and powerful twister overnight. The local sheriff says one person's confirmed dead and multiple are injured, though it's not clear exactly how many.
I got you.
There were rescues, too, including at this nursing home, though the center says all residents are okay.
We saw some wrecked cars and then saw this house completely off of its foundation, just obliterated over here.
The destructive aftermath of a probable long-track tornado, stretching all the way to nearby Bartlesville, where this Hampton Inn saw its roof collapse. The fear felt all over Oklahoma as tornado sirens blared overnight and more. The worst part of the storm striking in the middle of the night, hitting not just Oklahoma, but at least a half dozen other states.
If you have any sort of helmet to protect your head, go ahead and put that helmet on.
Residents left with no choice but to shelter in place. Some tornadoes traveling as fast as 60 miles an hour.
Right there.
In Tennessee, another twister uprooted trees, downed power lines, and ripped roofs right off homes.
Oh yeah, I got this house. Got everything through here.
The storm's now marking 6 straight weeks of severe weather across the country. And we mentioned, Savannah, that Barndall had been hit previously. It was actually only a few weeks ago on April 1st that an EF1 tornado struck this area, and now the community looking at a significantly harder cleanup than they did just a month ago. This is also one of 7 reported tornadoes so far just in the state of Oklahoma in this event. That's the very latest here. Let me send it back to you.
All right, so much extreme weather. Sam Brock, thank you so much.
Terrifying, right? So time now for a check on your morning news now weather.
Yeah, Michelle Grossman is here. She's going to give us the latest forecast, the latest on these storms. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Yeah, we're going to see severe weather once again today. We're looking at it right now. It's going to continue today, also on Wednesday and Thursday. So another multi-day event because we have one system and then another one right on the heels. This is what we're looking at for today, that severe storm system, the cold front moving into the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, bringing strong storms, the chance of tornadoes once again. Back behind it, we have colder air working in. That's bringing us heavy spring snow up to 3 feet in the highest elevations of the northern Rockies. Also some rain in the Pacific Northwest. We have a fire risk in the Southwest because it's so dry, low humidity, really windy as well. You can see windy in portions of the Rockies as well. We could see some rain extending down to the Tennessee Valley, also through parts of the southern parts of the mid-Atlantic. So that's what's happening today. This is what's happening right now. We have that cold front clear to see where it is. It's moving off to the east, and along this front, we have been watching storms all night long, all morning long. We're continuing to see severe weather this morning. Lots of lightning with these storms, hearing the thunder as well. You see all those bright colors telling us where that heavy rain is falling. Even seeing a little purple in some of those returns, on those last returns, and that's indicating where we could be seeing some hail. And we do have the chance for large hail as we go throughout the day. So 29 million people impacted today. We're looking at the Ohio Valley, the orange shading, the yellow shading. That is a likely spot of seeing some really strong storms. We could see storms greater than EF2 today. Cincinnati, Lexington, Lafayette, Paducah, Nashville, you need to be weather aware today. Have your tornado plan in place. Also looking at the chance for damaging hail, 2-inch hail that causes damage on its own. And winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. So we have power outages now. We're going to add to those numbers as we see those winds howling. That's going to bring down trees and also power lines. That number grows to 44 million tomorrow, and also the real estate grows. Notice we're looking now from Texas all the way to portions of the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, parts of the Midwest. Again, that orange area, that's the enhanced risk. That is the likeliest spot for seeing some really strong storms. The yellow shading, too, as well. We're looking at places like Paducah into Springfield, also Little Rock, Memphis, Lexington. So this is a large area tomorrow. You really want to heed all the warnings. In addition to the threats that I mentioned, we have the threat for some really heavy rainfall. We're going to have numerous rounds of rain. We're going to have rain falling 1 to 2 inches per hour within some of these storms. They're going to train over the same area. And that's why we're looking at the chance for some flooding and also the chance of flash flooding, especially where you see those dark blue areas. So Paducah, Lexington, Knoxville, Huntsville, Memphis, Little Rock. So many spots need to be weather aware tomorrow. The threat grows to 49 million on Thursday. We're talking Texas. This is the second storm system that's going to come in and affect Texas into the Gulf Coast states, the Mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas, and parts of the Mid-Atlantic as well. Winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some hail and also a few tornadoes. Let's talk about the spring storms because we're looking at the spring snowstorms because we are looking up to 36 inches of snow in some spots. We have winter alerts, winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings out in the Intermountain West, and there are those snowfall totals. Kind of crazy to think about, but I guess the skiers are kind of grasping for that last snow of the season.
Yeah, May
good for them. Yeah,
mud month sometimes out there.
Yeah,
but
right, exactly.
Now they're going to get some precipitation. Nice to see you. Thanks,
you too.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks. Right, much more to come on this hour of morning news now, including the latest on that American soldier who's been detained in Russia, accused of stealing.
That's right. First, though, rising tensions in former President Trump's hush money trial. Could Mr. Trump actually face jail time for violating that ongoing gag order? We'll help you answer that up next.
Welcome back. Former President Donald Trump facing a threat of jail time after the judge presiding over his hush money criminal trial held him in contempt of court for the 10th time now. This comes as prosecutors say they expect to finish presenting their case in about 2 weeks. NBC's senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett is following it for us. Laura, good morning.
Hey there, good morning. This remarkable dust-up over the gag order causing more drama than, frankly, any witness at this trial, with the judge now saying that when it comes to the former president, the usual deterrents against breaking court orders aren't working.
This morning, tensions rising at Donald Trump's hush money cover-up trial as the former president is held in criminal contempt for now the 10th time. Mr. Trump forced to pay another $1,000 fine soon, this time because he criticized the jury. While the judge gave the presumptive GOP nominee his sharpest warning yet, threatening jail time if Mr. Trump continues to break the gag order, barring attacks on witnesses and jurors. Judge Juan Merchan saying he understood the magnitude of such a decision, adding, "The last thing I want to do is put you in jail. You are the former president of the United States and possibly the next president. But at the end of the day, I have a job to do."
Our Constitution is much more important than jail. It's not even close. I'll do that sacrifice any day.
This as the state pivots away from the more salacious evidence of the alleged effort to bury stories that could have damaged Mr. Trump's chances at the presidency by paying women hush money, which he denies. Now to the more granular details of the charges he actually faces for allegedly doctoring his internal books to cover up how he reimbursed Michael Cohen, his former fixer who paid off a porn star days before the 2016 election.
Mr. Trump, is Michael Cohen a liar? I'm not allowed to answer that question. This has never happened in this country before.
Two longtime Trump Organization employees on the stand Monday, walking the jury through Cohen's invoices, checks Mr. Trump signed repaying Cohen in monthly installments, and internal ledger entries for, quote, legal expenses, all created under a phony retainer agreement prosecutors say was done to cover up the true reason for the repayments. While on cross-examination, Mr. Trump's defense team sought to emphasize neither witness can directly tie Mr. Trump to how the repayments were recorded.
Prosecutors now say they have roughly 2 weeks left to wrap their case, and then it will be the defense team's turn. Back to you.
All right, Laura Jarrett, thank you.
Let's get you international headlines now. We'll start in Russia, where officials say a U.S. soldier has been detained.
Yeah, NBC's Matt Bodner joins us now. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, guys. We'll kick this one off in the far reaches of Russia's Far East. That would be the city of Vladivostok, where a former U.S. soldier has been detained by Russian authorities on charges of criminal misconduct. Staff Sergeant Gordon Black had concluded a tour in South Korea and entered Russia as a private citizen on his own time. That's what the U.S. military is telling NBC News. He is believed to have been visiting a woman that he was romantically involved with, and he's accused by Russian authorities of attempting to steal from her. Russia is currently listed as a do not travel country by the U.S. State Department. A number of Americans are currently held by Russian authorities on a variety of charges. The U.S. believes many of these are fabricated. That includes the detention of Wall Street Journal journalist Evan Gershkovich on espionage charges. Moving along now to right here in the UK, where authorities are saying that a recent data breach on the Ministry of Defense payroll database was likely perpetrated by China. That is Sky News reporting. The breach has exposed personal information of former and current service members from all branches of the British Armed Forces, at least those who served in recent years. The military says it has not seen evidence that the data was actually lifted off this system, but it must act accordingly. The defense minister is expected to brief Parliament today. It must be said that public attribution of this attack is not expected in that setting at this time. We're going to stay right here in the UK to wrap this one up, and it's very good news indeed. Heineken has announced a $50 million investment into the British pub scene that is intended to reverse damage left by COVID to the entire industry. The company says it will reopen 62 pubs that closed during the pandemic and inject cash into a large pub operator to help it renovate and reopen many more pubs. They're focusing mostly on smaller pubs in residential areas, recognizing that some of these big prestige pubs closer to office centers make less sense in a world where work from home appears to be permanent for at least much of the workforce. Heineken, it should be said, I think is clearly hoping to dethrone Taylor Swift as American savior to British pubs. Back to you guys.
All right. Good one. The Black Dog. Matt's a Swiftie.
Thank you, Matt. Nice to see you.
All right. People in eastern Pennsylvania are getting a rare chance to see the nation's most decorated battleship in a whole new way. The USS New Jersey, built during World War II, is usually docked in Camden, New Jersey, but it's now in Philadelphia for a long overdue touching up, and our very own Joe got a tour.
The word underbelly often suggests something sordid, but viewing the underside of this ship is simply breathtaking.
The average person never gets a chance to see something like this.
After floating down the Delaware, Battleship New Jersey is now like a duck out of water, dry docked for maintenance in Philadelphia, where she's getting 3 fresh coats of paint, nearly 3,000 gallons. That hasn't happened in decades.
She's 887 foot 7 inches long.
Ryan Szymanski is curator of the ship, which is also a museum. Right now, there's a lot more of her to see, like the exposed propellers.
One of the most common reactions is, can I touch it?
The answer is yes.
I actually can. There we go.
Visitors are coming from all over the world to go under the 45,000-ton vessel, which is propped up on keel blocks.
It's incredible. And when you do get to see it, it takes your breath away.
She's the nation's most decorated battleship, the only one to see service during the Vietnam War. Kenneth Kirsch served aboard as a Navy machinist back then and is now a volunteer here.
Vietnam veterans come aboard, and I've actually seen this, where they get down and can kiss the deck and say that if it wasn't for this ship, they wouldn't be alive today. That just touches you.
When the work's done, the ship will return to the water and to Camden, New Jersey, where that history will live on. Joe Fryer, NBC News.
Oh, what an amazing piece. Kiss the deck. I love that. Oh, of course, from Joe. Thanks, Joe. Coming up, mental health is back in the national spotlight this morning.
Yeah, why the trailblazing reigning Miss USA is now resigning from her post. More on that after this. All right, we're back now with a surprise announcement from the reigning Miss USA.
Yeah, breaking the news on her Instagram yesterday, Noelia Voigt shared her decision to give up the crown and step down. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Goss joins us with more on Noelia's decision and her important message. Steph, good morning.
Guys, good morning. Noelia Voigt says what she has loved the most about being Miss USA is having a platform to support the causes she feels strongly about. But after 7 months, the 24-year-old is resigning, the first Miss USA to ever step down, telling her fans and supporters the most important thing in life is prioritizing your mental health.
Utah! For Noelia Voigt, it was the dream come true, becoming the first Venezuelan American to be crowned Miss USA.
Right now, I'm honestly just ready to get to work.
But with less than half of her year-long reign to go, Voigt announced she is resigning, something she acknowledges was a tough decision and will come as a large shock. Posting on Instagram, "Never compromise your physical and mental health. Our health is our wealth." In a statement, the Miss USA organization saying, "The well-being of our title holders is a top priority, and we understand her need to prioritize herself at this time." But there are signs there might have been conflict between Voigt and the Miss USA organization. A person close to her telling NBC News the first letter of each sentence in her Instagram post spells out, "I am silenced." Miss USA's former social media director, Claudia Engelhardt, says she stepped down from the organization because of what she felt was a difficult work environment.
I firsthand can tell you that my mental health took a decline. I can understand why Noelia stepped down.
Engelhardt worked closely with Noelia, who told her management was dismissive of her mental health concerns.
I did not align with the way that they were running their business, their organization, and the way that they treated their title holders.
Are you saying that Noelia was not supported by management?
100%, yes.
Noelia Voigt's sudden resignation comes just 2 years after the tragic death of Miss USA 2019. Chesley Christ, a lawyer with an MBA and a successful TV career, died by suicide at age 30. Now, the Miss USA organization is once again facing difficult questions about the well-being of its title holders. Voigt is the first Miss USA to ever step down from the job. In her message explaining why, she offered this advice: advocate for yourself and others by using your voice, and never be afraid of what the future holds, even if it feels uncertain.
Overnight, Miss USA got back to us about those allegations made by the former social media director. They said they are false and that they support an environment that is inclusive and supportive, and they are very concerned about the well-being of their title holders.
Interesting. All right, Stephanie Gask, thanks for bringing us this story.
Thank you. Your Court and report. Well, let's stay on the topic of mental health. We've got a new report. It's from the JED Foundation. They examined the impact stigma has on teens seeking help when they say that they need it for their mental health. So according to this new study, teens are still struggling to reach out for assistance despite being aware of the importance of mental health and seeking support, with 74% of teens saying it is a sign of strength to reach out for their mental health. That's some good news, while 42% are saying they lack the words to ask for help. To help us understand why that might be, we're going to bring in Dr. Kamala Modi. She's the Senior Director of Design and Impact at the JED Foundation. We're also going to talk to Rick Yang. He's a graduating senior at Scarsdale High School here in New York. Good morning to both of you. We so appreciate you joining us on such an important topic. Dr. Modi, I will start with you so that we can understand more about the study uncovered. Why is it that teens are still struggling to reach out when it comes to getting help for their mental health, even though they do view that as a strength? What are the barriers?
Sure. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. So we really wanted to understand this concept of stigma, which is really the shame, embarrassment, and secrecy associated with mental illness. Now, we wanted to unpack this a little bit because the research in the past had really shown that stigma is a barrier to help seeking, but it was really only focused on adults and not teens, ages 13 through 17. So we wanted to understand the impact of stigma on teen help seeking behavior, such as talking to adults, talking to friends about their difficult emotions. We found that stigma is not a top barrier, that this is not something that they're thinking of top of mind. No teens in our study even used the word stigma. It's not a teen-friendly word. So we found instead that the top barriers are feeling uncomfortable talking about difficult emotions, feeling like they might be a burden to others if they do reach out, and finally feeling that like they might be misunderstood if they were to reach out to adults. Now, stigma-related concerns were more of a factor for certain teens of color, such as Asians, African American and Black teens, as well as Hispanic and Latinx teens, and also LGBTQ plus teens. These individuals tend to face more issues with regard to trust, trusting adults, the image that they wish to portray in the world, as well as privacy and disclosure issues as well. And finally, we found that,
No, I wanted to bring Rick in here on this point. Rick, you are a high school senior. Congratulations, senior year. This study also found that stigma-related attitudes and beliefs were higher for students of color, as the doctor just said, with Asian teens less likely than their peers to strongly agree that it is important to actively take care of your mental health. Why do you think there's a disparity in communities of color, Rick?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that specifically relating to Asian mental health, which I have some personal experience with as it relates to close ones, I think it's crucial to first acknowledge that there are various cultural barriers that Asian youth might experience when deciding whether or not to seek help. You know, I had a friend freshman year, long story short, she was depressed, and we would FaceTime every night, and pretty much she wanted to see professional help, which at the time was going to be through telemedicine because everything was remote, but her parents wouldn't let her at first. And it ultimately took her, I think, a few months before she was finally able to seek help, and her parents would actually let her. And she was diagnosed with manic depression, which is more commonly known as bipolar disorder now. And so now she's thriving, she's doing great now, but I think it was definitely that experience that kind of showed me that, you know, mental health is definitely a social concern, and there are various cultural factors that are kind of impacting Asian youth when it comes to seeking help. I think that the model minority myth is quite important when we discuss Asian mental health, specifically for youth, because you know, the model minority myth is this societal stereotype that kind of portrays Asian Americans as like high achieving and problem-free minorities. And I think this really impedes their ability to kind of seek proper mental health support because, you know, they have this pressure on them from, you know, all external factors, whether it's their peers, you know, classmates, teachers, adults, just society in general, that kind of expects them to succeed. And, you know, by kind of reaching out for mental health support, it kind of portrays them as weak or like they want to save face, and so they're scared to actually seek help in that sense.
It's such important context to the conversation. And Dr. Modi, I'm sure the question a lot of parents and adults are asking, especially maybe after Rick's anecdote there, but also just generally when you hear some of these numbers, what can I do to help? If stigma is not a teen-friendly word, if digging in on that isn't it, what is it? What can you tell us? I know the report offers guidance.
Definitely. Well, we found that luckily parents are still the #1 trusted support that teens want to go to when it comes to dealing with their difficult emotions. So that's good news for parents. Parents are still very relevant in teens' lives. Teens are really looking for non-judgmental support. They're looking for a listener first and foremost, not necessarily a problem solver. So parents really try to listen first. Check your judgment at the door. Check if you have any stigma of your own. Try to keep that quiet. Try not to expose that too much because teens are really, it's a hard job to talk about difficult emotions. That's one of the top barriers. So as much as teens are opening themselves up, give some space, give some time for these conversations. Check in again with teens if things don't go well the first time. These are hard conversations for everyone. And really, really support first.
Rick, I know you were the Jed Foundation Student Voice of Mental Health Award winner this year. Congratulations. What is your advice to teens who may be struggling with seeking help because of stigmas?
Yeah, I think, honestly, you know yourself best. I think that if you want to seek help, then do that. If you don't think you need help, professional help, then you don't need to seek help. There's no pressure. There's no shame. I think one thing that's important is prioritizing self-care. I think that, you know, nowadays there's so much going on. And you just want to make sure you do something. Maybe it's a hobby that you really enjoy genuinely. Maybe it's just getting enough sleep, enough exercise, enough nutrition. But I think self-care is really important. I know social media is a big topic that's on the rise. I think while staying connected is important, sometimes you just got to make sure you don't spend too much time on social media due to all of the possible downsides of that, whether it's comparison or to like an idealized life or like cyberbullying, for example. And ultimately, you know, seeking supportive relationships, non-judgmental parents, whether it's people who can actually actively listen to what you have to say without critiquing some of the things you're saying.
Oh, really good advice, really good thoughts.
Both of you.
Rick Yang, Dr. Kamla Modi, thank you so much for sharing this first look at this report that's out today. We really appreciate your time and important discussion. And if you at home or anyone you know is struggling, please call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's just these 3 numbers, 988. Coming up, we could be witnessing the beginning of the end of self-checkout.
Right after the break, a new proposal in one state that'll force some stores to check themselves. I'll explain next. We're back now with all of the headlines coming out of Boeing this morning. Its first ever astronaut launch was scrubbed last night because of an engine valve problem with the rocket. We're also learning the company's 787 Dreamliner aircraft is now the subject of an FAA investigation. Here's NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello with the latest for us.
Yeah, that's right. This concerns the 787 Dreamliner, a very popular plane. Boeing says an employee flagged this issue. Boeing brought it to the FAA. The concern, Boeing employees may have falsified records inside and on the production line.
All
already under intense scrutiny, this morning Boeing is the focus of yet another FAA investigation. The agency looking into whether the company actually completed required inspections of the work between the wings and the fuselage on the 787 Dreamliner, and whether employees falsified aircraft records suggesting they'd done the checks when they hadn't. Former FAA and NTSB investigator Jeff Guzzetti.
This is yet another event that points to a deficient quality control mechanism within Boeing.
Boeing says it self-reported the issue to the FAA, adding flight safety is not an issue as it works to inspect the fleet. Boeing's 737 MAX fleet has already been the focus of multiple investigations after 2 fatal overseas crashes and January's mid-air blowout of a door plug over Portland. The company has admitted its quality control process had broken down and encouraged employees to speak up if they see something.
Effectively, they are putting out defective airplanes.
Before testifying in front of Congress last month, Boeing engineer and whistleblower Sam Salapour told me the gaps between the big pieces of the fuselage on the 787 are too big. And even though the fuselage pieces are fastened together, he believes the stress could lead to fatigue failure and disaster after thousands of flights.
The plane can break apart in altitude and drop to the ground. I think that's a safety issue.
The FAA says Boeing is re-inspecting all 787 airplanes still within the production system and must also create a plan to address the in-service fleet. Boeing insists claims about the structural integrity of the 787 are inaccurate. Now the fact that a Boeing employee came forward may suggest the culture is starting to change.
Boeing did not sit on this information. I think that's a small sign of an improving safety culture, a silver lining in this whole event.
Yeah, the concern is this could impact summer travel because already there aren't enough new Boeing planes coming out of the production line. As a result, airlines are curtailing their summer travel schedules, and United Airlines has already asked its pilots to voluntarily take time off. Separately, here at the Kennedy Space Center, the Boeing Starliner launch was postponed last night because of a leak and an oxygen valve on the United Launch Alliance rocket. Now, this is not a Boeing issue. This is on the rocket itself. They're going to try to launch again 2 astronauts to the space station. The first time ever humans have been on this particular spaceship headed to the station. They're going to try for Friday night. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you. Now, when it comes to the self-checkout lines, you either love them or you hate them. We've seen some major retailers place restrictions on self-checkout in order to curb theft. And now a proposed bill in California could force some stores to begin rolling them back. This morning, California lawmakers considering a new bill forcing retailers to limit self-checkout lanes in an effort to curb theft and protect jobs.
When worker safety is at risk and people lose their jobs, we in the state legislature must act, and we must act now.
According to the bill, grocery and retail stores would be required to provide at least 1 cashier-run station. Self-checkouts would be limited to 10 items or less, and a human worker would be required to monitor no more than 2 lanes each. Stores using AI at checkout would need a full assessment before deploying that technology. Lawmakers and retailers say curbing theft is a priority, with one recent survey estimating more than 20 million Americans have stolen from a self-checkout kiosk and more than 8 million planning to do it again. 69% of consumers also say it's easier to steal from a self-checkout kiosk than a cashier. This comes as major retailers have already been rethinking how to use self-checkout in stores. Most recently, Target is limiting self-checkout to 10 items or less.
The line goes quicker, but also I feel like it's not very convenient for some people that are buying a lot of stuff.
While other major retailers like Walmart and Costco experimenting with limiting self-checkout, and Dollar General removing self-checkout altogether from hundreds of its stores.
The question is whether forcing people to a certain kind of checkout, whether that resolves the issue, and I don't think it's going to be a global solution.
Retail theft aside, many shoppers are taking notice of the changes.
Can
we just talk about the self-checkout epidemic in the United States?
We are officially entering the downfall of self-checkouts.
As for inflation-weary shoppers in California, experts also say buyer beware over a potential downside to the bill.
I'm very worried that this will raise the cost for the businesses, which will then have to really try to resolve that issue either through raising prices or exiting the market. And consumers, we know, are already fed up with high prices.
So don't expect the self-checkout to fully go away. Experts say there's room for both, especially as AI may help make the self-checkout lane more efficient and better able to detect theft. A Capital One survey found more than half of consumers still plan to use the self-checkout lane even more over the next year.
Huh. Well, that's certainly a talker. Let's get you more financial headlines this morning. Disney and Comcast are figuring out a solution to a past financial dispute.
CNBC's Savannah now joins us now with more on that and other money news. Good morning.
Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, so let's start with Disney and Comcast, the parent of NBC Universal, are reportedly looking to hire a financial advisor to resolve a dispute over the value of Comcast's 33% stake in Hulu. Disney struck a deal to buy the rest of Hulu last year, and Reuters says Wall Street analysts have valued Hulu at anywhere from $27 to more than $40 billion. The streaming service had nearly 50 million subscribers as of the end of last year. Disney has already added Hulu to Disney Plus as a bundle option. Nintendo plans to announce the successor to the Switch by next March after forecasting a big drop in profit this year. The Switch, which was launched 7 years ago, is one of Nintendo's most successful pieces of hardware with sales of more than 140 million units. But Sony and Microsoft have since launched new versions of the PlayStation and Xbox. Nintendo has been pushing its Switch Online subscription service to get new customers to buy the Switch and build a broad base for the next generation console. And Microsoft is ramping up plans to remove more than 3 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. The company is striking a deal with a Swedish energy firm, which is building a carbon capture and storage project that will be installed at Europe's largest biomass power plant. CO2 will be removed from the gas emitted from the plant, liquefied for transport, and permanently stored underground.
Wow. All right. That's pretty cool. Savannah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Coming up, we've got your front row seat to all the best looks from last night's Met Gala right here in New York City. From first-timers to favorites, it was a stylish soiree for the ages. We've got the highlights next. We are back with a slithery surprise for an Arizona couple headed to the movies. Check it out. The Phoenix area couple says they were driving on the freeway for almost 45 minutes when all of a sudden they saw a snake slithering up their windshield. Look at this video. It looks more than a little like a rattlesnake. Thankfully, they were near their exit and left the snake to slither off their car while they went to a movie premiere. The snake appears to be a gopher snake, which is harmless and common in Arizona. But yeah, it does kind of look like a rattlesnake. That is very scary. I would have swerved the car for sure. Let's move on. The annual Met Gala here in New York had all the stars stepping out in style last night to show off their best looks. Today, anchor Chanel Jones had a front row seat to all the glitz and glamour.
Last night in New York, on the first Monday of May, fashion was in full bloom.
It's a night to play dress up and make dreams come true. Like, I feel like a princess.
The biggest stars shining bright at the annual Met Gala, the hottest ticket in town.
I don't know who any of these people are. They all smell incredible.
I know, my friend.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
What's your...
I
love you guys.
So I think the incredible work that Anna is doing every year to support it is something that I really respect.
Each year, it seems like it gets better and better. What are you expecting this year?
Well, I always look forward so much to seeing what everybody is going to wear.
This year, the dress code is the Garden of Time. We're expecting some big surprises. This year's gala, a celebration of the Costume Institute's newest exhibit, Sleeping Beauties. The romantic theme paired with the dress code, the Garden of Time.
This is a bit of a romantic gardener.
The carpet transforming into a beautiful garden full of floral fashions and other nature-inspired designs.
It's like I'm running through a garden. As they said, the sleeping beauties, the gowns that we love, being brought into the future. Right?
It's like double themed, so it's cool to see what speaks to each artist the most.
The event's A-list roster of co-chairs leading the charge on the famous museum steps, including Thor himself, Chris Hemsworth. Is there everybody you're most looking forward to seeing tonight?
I met Bad Bunny before. That was pretty cool.
Global superstar Bad Bunny, style queen Jennifer Lopez. And J-Lo just arrived. Stunning. And the belle of the ball, Zendaya, who made her return to the gala after 5 years. The actress rising to the challenge, serving major drama in a peacock-inspired gown. From first-timers to all the Met Gala favorites. You had the most joy on the red carpet we've seen all night.
Well, guess what? I have the best date in the whole play.
The special night was full of jaw-dropping looks.
We just want to know how you got in your dress.
A team of people. And some serious bling.
And when you're tired of these rings, just let me know. I'm right at 30 rounds.
Is that you feel you want me to drop them off?
I mean, any of these. You might not even notice if you just give me one or two.
Our friend Camila Cabello also literally dripping in ice.
I promise you, I was going to tell you that this is my favorite clutch, my favorite bag of the night. And then I just realized that your hands are wet.
Wait, did you realize it was ice?
I did not realize it was ice.
Girl, it is ice. Feel my hands.
And we had to ask Io Adebri about her own purse.
So when you were with Carson, you handed him your bag when you wanted.
True, yes.
So I kind of feel like you should just hand me your bag and I'll give it right back just because we have a tradition. Do you have a bag or something?
I do have a bag someone else has.
Oh my goodness.
And of course, the night wouldn't be complete without a few surprises. Zendaya making another appearance on the carpet, channeling a midnight garden with outfit number 2. All the biggest stars living out their fashion fantasies.
What am I doing? A comedian sitting at the Chanel table wearing Dior?
I did not wake up like this.
During another magical evening out at the Met.
We've seen you, you've seen us. Like, I just love this part.
Enjoy the moment. Try to make it as beautiful as possible before possibly it all comes to a dreamy conclusion.
What are you going to do with these? I just want to try them. What do you think?
Thanks, Jeff.
Very Wizard of Oz.
I guess I know, right? Well, I'm from Kansas, so it kind of works out.
Somewhere
over the rainbow. That's all I can sing.
Oh my goodness, Chanel gets a Jeff Goldblum serenading. Are you kidding me? She looked absolutely fantastic. Chanel, thank you for that report. Quite the night in fashion and here in New York City. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Don't go anywhere. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.